Good evening. Welcome to another exciting program of the Queen's Grapevine. This is your host, Wallingford Lee. Tonight on the Queen's Grapevine, we want to talk about immigration issues and priorities, part two. We had a previous program when we talked about immigration issues, 2014, and again, we're still in 2014. So we want to talk a little bit of some of the actions that the president took back in November 20th, 2014, where he stepped up to the plate to deal with all the immigration issues facing a lot of people from different countries who are living right here in the United States of America. And again, as we mentioned in the previous program, some of the issues by the Republicans who are now threatening to actually sue the president. And the president has been eloquent enough, just basically saying to them, you know what, this has been on the table. We just can't sweep it under the rug anymore. Let's deal with it. Present a program that you think is better than one I presented, and let's sit down and talk. Like anything else, they have not stepped up to the plate. Well, we don't want to talk about political things. We want to talk about the issues that are affecting a lot of people that are not properly documented or not documented properly. So, you know, we bring in a program tonight, a very capable person that has the ability and the capacity to talk about these things. You know, talking about an attorney, Ana Maria Bazan, who has been kind enough to be your guest in the program, and again, it gives us a great deal of pleasure and, of course, satisfaction to have her in our program to talk about these super sensitive issues that affect us in more ways than one, whether we're Americans or not. It is something that we have to deal with, and we should talk about it. And that's what this Queen's Grapevine is all about. It's about a program that talks about issues that the big stations don't, because they have all these commercial interruption. But we want to deal with these things. Welcome to our program.
Thank you.
It's good to have you here, and we felt so comfortable in the first program that we did with you. And we want to talk a little bit about the defer action that the president has put together. Can you tell us a little bit the pros and cons of it a little bit? I know we discussed it a little bit in the first program, but I kind of want to get into it a little bit more, because the first program that you did was just so wonderful, the information that you came about. And again, it's very important sort of view and audience understands the pros and cons and what's on the table.
Okay. As we mentioned in the previous program, the deferred action extends many different areas. So it creates a category for parents, and it extends a category that youngsters that came in as youngsters had DACA. And also it extends a provisional waiver that was implemented March 4th of 2013. But what DAPA and DACA bring the person is authorization to work, permission to work. And that's huge for people who have been here for many years undocumented without having that piece of paper, that permit to work. And with that employment authorization, you can go to the Social Security Administration and obtain a Social Security number. And with that, you can possibly also obtain a driver's license or a non-driver ID from New York State, which is very useful for people who are taxi drivers or who have to drive to go to work. A lot of people in Long Island, upstate, need this. So I would say, to answer your question in terms of the pros and cons, I would say there's more pros than cons in the sense that if you do qualify, once you consult with a reputable immigration attorney or a reputable nonprofit organization, and they tell you you do qualify for DAPA and to extend DACA and so forth, then you move on and you qualify and you have all these benefits. However, there are people that won't qualify that will be in a priority list that may be referred to immigration court to be placed in removal proceedings.
Let's talk a little bit about those who might be into deportation proceeding. What there is in it, where do they stand in a situation that, is there any type of appeal that they can go through? Mm-hmm. Is there any other organization that they can call on to help them?
Okay, so let's assume that the person applied for DAPA and they went to someone that didn't know what they were doing. They just simply completed the form and didn't ask them the correct questions, and they are on the priority list to be deported. What the government would do is refer them, they would deny the DAPA, and they would refer the case eventually to immigration court to removal proceedings, okay? It doesn't mean they're gonna give you a deportation order immediately, okay? They're not gonna deport you right after they deny your DAPA. It doesn't work that way. You do have the right to seek an immigration lawyer to represent you and to see a judge. And once you hire an immigration lawyer, you may have defenses once you're in removal proceedings if you qualify. For example, there are defenses, one of which is very popular and some people qualify and some don't, that is called cancellation of removal, where you need 4 things: 10 years of continuous physical presence, good moral character, U.S. citizen children or residents, and you need, or other immediate relatives, and you also need extreme hardship to those relatives. They have to have some kind of illness. They have to be sick, either physically, emotionally, neurologically, and so forth. So what I'm trying to say is that this is a defense in court if you're sent into removal proceedings, that there can be defenses. I mean, you can have a U visa defense because you may qualify for another kind of relief. You can have asylum, you can have other defenses, but you should consult before you apply for DAPA so that you're not in removal proceedings, because that's, a very risky situation. You don't want to be placed there. And
a very risky situation indeed.
Very risky. And unfortunately, there's a lot of unscrupulous lawyers out there
that will take advantage.
That will take it and that actually use this. They call it the 10-year rule or 10-year defense. And they say to you, oh yeah, you have children, you've been here for over 10 years, I'm going to do something for you.
Or I can do something for you.
I can.
Let's talk a little bit. We'll come back to the lawyer part of it because,
Yes.
we read sometime in the paper and you hear things about some scrupulous lawyers. We're not saying that they are, but this is what the media presents sometimes. When does the deportation process take place? Are you incarcerated, or is a person incarcerated? And if they're incarcerated, how long the process takes to get them out of the country? And you came up with some valid points talking about their rights as a human being, and this is a great thing about this country, you have a certain amount of rights. Let's talk about how long the process takes and whether they're incarcerated and how long it takes to deport them.
Okay. The person who's in removal proceedings, in court proceedings, is not necessarily detained. Some people will be detained and some people won't. The people who will be detained would be those who are subject to mandatory detention under the immigration laws, and that's a whole nother topic for another day. But assuming you are detained, you can be detained anywhere from a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, to many, many months, maybe 8 months or so. I mean, they have less and less space as we speak because there's so many people in detention. So they're trying not to keep people for too long. But in the history of detention and how long people have been detained, it's been for many months.
Wow, well, and I would imagine that if you're releasing your own recognizance, there might be some type of people that you have to stay with that the law feel comfortable with, where you can report back into them or anything like that, I would imagine.
Right.
But that's a good thing about you knowing your rights and seeking the proper help that you can get and is available to you. How widespread it is sometimes when, again, sometimes the media blow things out about lawyers taking advantage of people who are not documented. That is a tough thing and hard for me to believe, because sometimes, you read these things and you don't know how to take it. So how does a person pick a good attorney? What is the pros and cons? And if they feel they've been taken advantage, how do they run through a process like that? Which is pretty difficult, I imagine.
Yes. It's huge. The fraud, there's victims of fraud like sand. I mean,
Wow.
It's huge. It happens too many times. I would say at least once a day in my office, I hear of somebody coming from another lawyer's office or an immigration preparer that has damaged their application, that has committed fraud, and they have lost thousands of dollars. And all of the good, reliable nonprofit organizations are fighting very hard against this, and including the district attorney and the disciplinary committee of the New York bar and other bars. But it's not easy to find reliable representation. I would say don't be fooled by by somebody's appearance. If they're on television and they look good and they sound good and they have a nice office and it worked for their cousin or their uncle or the nephew, is not necessarily going to work for you, because these unscrupulous lawyers do some cases that are okay, that do come through, but others don't. So the person may be fooled by saying, well, my cousin referred me to you, so I came here, right? I would say, please make sure there's a written contract with that lawyer, and the lawyer explains to you each step of the process. How is the lawyer going to get you a permit, a work authorization, if you don't qualify for DACA and DAPA and the new deferred action? How are they going to get it for you? If they don't explain it to you, then it's a red flag. Don't believe them.
The signs are there.
Consult, read first before you go to the lawyer. Ask them all the questions you want to ask them. The contract should be in your language, in your native language. If you're a Spanish speaker, it should be in Spanish. You should understand what it says. You should read before you sign it. Take your time. Read. Don't be afraid to ask all the questions you want.
I'm happy about the things that you're saying, because it makes them understand how important it is, certain rights that they have. What happens if an attorney asks the client to lie? Because many times, like you hear people talk on the train and says, well, my attorney told me to say this and stuff like that. Where does that leave the immigrant who's trying to get things done, trying to get his paper done, and he's innocent to a certain extent,
Right.
maybe not educated enough and don't know how to Well, what happened on the circumstances like that?
It's awful. I think that lawyers who do ask their clients to lie will be in trouble eventually, will be caught and should be caught eventually. There's been a lot of fraud with asylum cases. There was a huge case of a law firm in Manhattan that was caught, and the lawyers were asking their clients to lie in the application or lied for them. So not only are they doing something that's incorrect and wrong and illegal, but they're putting their client's life at risk, because asylum is a very touchy subject. You don't seek asylum every day just to seek it. You really have to qualify for it, and there's people that are very afraid to go back to their countries because they will be killed and tortured if they go back. So if you're committing fraud with asylum and you lie, you will never benefit from any other immigration relief again if you're caught. Again, if the lawyer is helping you lie only for a work permit, is that really worth it? Do you want to get a work permit by lying and exposing yourself to the possibility of being incarcerated for committing something illegal? And the lawyer could also get in trouble with the disciplinary committee and ultimately get disbarred. It's not easy to get a lawyer disbarred, but at least reprimanded, at least told not to ever do that again. But I think for clients it's very detrimental, and I think you should be very careful, and you should not risk lying, committing fraud, because you're risking your life and the life that you have built in this country for so long. You have been working here, you have children here, and you're gonna lie just to get a work permit, and then you're gonna be in trouble afterwards, and you're not gonna be able to qualify for DAPA or DACA or anything else. So just look at the red flags, be very smart, educate yourselves, go to these trainings that the nonprofit organizations offer, and seek honest and reliable representation for them. A lot of these organizations have a list of reliable lawyers that they referred people to, that they can refer you to.
Very interesting indeed. It gives you the opportunity for you to understand that you do have rights. What are some of the mitigating issues, let's say, if a documented person, and I don't want to talk about any particular country, has issues where they cannot go back to their country because of political reason, are there any laws that cover them, or what is their process in a situation like that?
Yes, I'm really glad that you asked this question, because if people don't qualify for DAPA or DACA, they shouldn't stay home and give up. They should consult with an attorney, because they may have this asylum relief. They may have a U visa relief. So very briefly, I'll mention asylum is only, it's an opportunity for people to apply only based on 5 grounds. You have to prove that you have been persecuted on account of either race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. So if you're a child from El Salvador or Guatemala that come seeking asylum because the Mara 18s were after you because they were trying to recruit you, and they beat you up and they torture you and they threaten you, and you came in, you're 17 years old, you're 16 years old, whatever age you are, and you were tortured, and you can prove it with testimony and perhaps other documents, then you have an asylum relief. And again, this is a huge topic that we can discuss another time
Right.
in more detail. But some people do qualify for asylum and can be eligible for it, but it has to be based on a legitimate case.
So in other words, the possibility exists that you could stay in America if you had the type of persecution, but you have to be able to prove it with logical ground, and then they will look at it carefully.
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know, because a lot of people, I'm sure, here under those type of conditions, and maybe they're just so afraid to seek the help that they really need, and it's important, as you mentioned, to find a good attorney who knows what he's talking about. As we continue talking about all these immigration issues, we'll be right back in the Queen's Grapevine, because we're trying to get you as much information for you to know your rights, and not only know your rights, to know that you can get help by qualified professional attorneys, and to know that you will have the opportunity on the right circumstance, if you do qualify, to stay in this nation. And it's important to also know that a lot of immigrants brings a lot of important things. In some cases, there are a lot of immigrants who are doctors, lawyers, that have made a difference right here in America over a period of time. We'll be right back in the Grapevine as we continue percolating and moving ahead. And we're back here in the Queen's Grapevine talking about immigration issues, part 2. It's important to note the big step that President Obama had the strength and integrity to take. A lot of Latinos and a lot of Caribbean people say sometimes that Obama is the largest president that have deported a whole lot of people from this nation. But the truth of the matter is, no president has taken a step that he has taken lately. I believe that everyone deserves an opportunity to come to this nation, like most people are. If you look at everyone's background, they're from foreign background. Only true American is the Indians, and we know what happened to them, where they are in Oklahoma, and what was done to them. But again, we have confidence that what Obama's putting together here will be able to help a lot of people who need, who have lived a decent life, who wants to be a part of the American dream, and like anyone else, they should have the opportunity. So, we find ourselves here in the Grapevine talking about, again, sensitive issues about immigration matters that we know that it's a challenge to the president, it's a challenge to the nation. We also know where the Republican Party and the Tea Party stands on these things, and their first line of defense is no, obviously. But again, there are a lot of jobs that a lot of immigrants does that a lot of Americans are not willing to do, such as working in certain restaurant, washing dishes, other jobs that they find below their means. And I'm not saying that immigrants should do these type of jobs, but I'm just bringing an example that they are part of the fiver that we are here in America. And again, we are here at talking to an attorney who has the background and the experience in immigration matters, and she has been kind enough to be in our program. We did a part 1 and this is part 2, and we're talking about all these type of things, and that, again, as part of the American Fiver, that today is a hot topic, why immigration is such a big issue, and I guess by Obama stepping up November 20th and putting a plan together, has scared a lot of Republicans. But you know what? Hey, welcome to the club. We must deal with these matters. They're not going away, and we can't push them underneath the rug. We must deal with it. Well, Ana Maria, one thing is very important. We talked a little bit about the changes that and the provision of the waiver. Can you expand a little bit more, because I know there are conditions to them that Obama presented?
Yes, so part of the Deferred Action Program, we talked about DAPA, which is for the
Yes.
parents of U.S. citizens and residents. Then we talked about the extension of DACA, which was for the dreamers and the people who came into the country before they were 16. The president has also extended the provisional waiver that was initially implemented on March 4th of 2013 that only included those who were immediate relatives of United States citizens, okay? He has extended that provisional waiver to include legal permanent resident spouses and children, okay? Not just immediate relatives of U.S. citizens. So how does the waiver work? A lot of people ask me, what is the common, what is that waiver? They talk to
What
me
is the
about
catch
that. What
to
is
it?
that? So it's really, I think it's better understood if I give you a specific examples of it. So if somebody enters illegally and marries a U.S. citizen, okay, the general rule is that they cannot adjust status within the United States. They cannot get a green card within the United States.
Because they came in illegally.
Because they entered illegally,
Okay.
even if they're married to a U.S. citizen, okay? Unless there's always exceptions, unless they're protected under 245I, but we're not going to get into that right now because it will be too confusing. Assuming that they're not protected under 245I. So they come in illegally, they're married to a U.S. citizen. They cannot get a green card here. So they would have to, before the provisional waiver changed the process, they would have to go back to their home country to ask for a waiver and wait as many months or years as it would take if they're granted the waiver to come back with a green card to join their spouse.
While the spouse is still here and they're over in their own country waiting.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So the president last year changed the process so that you could apply for a provisional waiver within the United States and that you wouldn't have to wait outside the country for so long. You would wait here in the U.S. for a pre-approval, okay? But it only waives unlawful presence, the fact that you entered illegally and that you're here illegally. Now, so the first step would be the U.S. citizen petitions for the spouse, right? Then you do a waiver. But what is the waiver based on? The waiver is based on how much the citizen is going to suffer. We need to prove hardship to the United States citizen if the undocumented person is not granted status. So it's not just a waiver, a form that you complete and all of a sudden, poof, it's waived. No, it works only if you prove hardship to the United States citizen spouse in this instance, in my example. So the U.S. citizen spouse has to be either physically ill or emotionally, he has to have psychological problems that are documented, okay? Let's say that the waiver is approved, you get a pre-approval. Then the third step is for you to go to your home country. You still have to go home, okay?
Wow.
You still have to depart, but only for an interview for the green card, for the
Not
legal
here.
permanent.
You have to go back.
Correct. You have to go back because you're not allowed to adjust status within the United States. You can only consular process with this waiver. So the third step is you consular process, you enter as a resident, and that's the end of it. And happy story. Now, what has Obama done? He has extended this. So if you're a spouse of a legal permanent resident, you can now also qualify for this provisional waiver. Okay? So it's very detailed. It's better that you consult with the lawyers to who qualifies and what category, because the person does have to have extreme hardship once again. So it has been extended.
Isn't it a fact that if you marry, and it's not a business wedding, okay? Because you hear in the newspapers and TV something about business wedding, but if you're truly married, especially if they have a child, if this person has to go back, isn't that a terrible hardship on the other spouse not to have your better half there with you?
Yes, and that's exactly, I'm glad you asked that point, because that you asked me that question, because it's not enough that they're your spouse. You know, the public
Wow.
may say, well, of course I'm going to suffer extreme hardship because it's my wife who's going to leave and I need my wife, right? Or my husband. It's not enough. You have to prove extreme hardship because everybody's wife and husband are going to suffer because they miss each other and they care for each other and they love each other. But that's not good enough. The government wants you to prove that there's extreme hardship suffered by the qualifying relative, by the spouse, in this instance, in my example.
Wow, that's a tough one. That one I had heard about it, but your explanation is so clear that it's kind of scary for a person who's going through that, knowing that the other spouse is over the other side. When are they going to come back in? Whether it's going to be approval or not, or whether they're going to get stuck there, because right there you're breaking a family up. Okay, if something does not come through, let's say if the husband is over there, does the wife uplift herself? And if there's a child involved, and go over there, what is his status? That's a tough one.
Right, but the provisional waiver that Obama implemented, the process that he implemented, the change in 2013, and this new change does help because you don't have to wait outside the country for many years.
Thank God.
That's the part that I think helps a lot if you do qualify for it, because you always had to prove extreme hardship to the spouse. That's not new. Okay, the provisional waiver always, the waiver for unlawful presence always existed, and the provisional waiver simply changed the process so you don't have to be there and separated for too long.
We got to give a lot of kudos to the president for coming up with that, because that's a tough one, to be separated from your spouse. Well, Ana Maria, again, I want to take this opportunity in behalf of the family of the Grapevine to tell you, honestly, thank you so much for imparting so much information to our viewing audience who watch our program, and those who are concerned about their legal status and their family member whether they qualify or not. I think your input, I think your information has been very, very clear and concise, and we don't have truly words of thank you for all that great information that you've given us. We're
On the
truly thankful.
contrary, I thank you, because what you're doing on this Queens Public Television, it's essential. People, please, should watch out for those scammers, those unscrupulous lawyers and immigration preparers who are just out there to get your money, to fool you, to get you into some waiting list that doesn't exist, to apply for something that's not out yet, because remember, the forms are not out there yet. So please consult with a reliable immigration attorney that's licensed to practice in the United States.
And those strong words, which makes a whole lot of sense and a lot of logic. I want to tell you, my viewing audience, thank you so much for watching our program. And I hope that this program has been very informative to you. We hope to see you next week at the same place, at the same time, and at the same hour. And again, this is Wallingford Lee saying good night for the Queen's Grapevine, and thank you for watching our program.